Are those for me?
They are for you.
Shouldn't
Happy
have.
Valentine's Day.
Oh, this is just a treat. I didn't get you anything, so you publicly humiliated me in front of the 2.4 million viewers. You can have some goldfish.
Oh,
Do
you shouldn't have. My favorite.
they? Or a bag of gummy worms. With 2 gummy worms in it.
That's the best you could do.
Random shit from my 3-year-old shelf on the pantry. Oh, here's a good one. You won't even be my Valentine. You can be Carter's stallion.
So much more.
We have a comment from Henry Garrett. Drew, where are my flowers? How do you want to respond?
They're on their way, Henry. They're in the mail.
That's not cheap. So
Flowers
Henry,
and chocolates. Yeah, Henry.
Should we try and do a heart?
Oh, okay, no, the camera's mirrored.
Oh, gosh. Drew told me to flip my camera. Oh, man. Everything's wrong.
This is good content here. That's what the viewers
want.
Do it. Carter.
It's getting worse. Man, that was bad. Okay. Welcome to 100X Engineering Party, people. Valentine's Day, people. The show where you will learn to work with the mirrored camera and make gestures that stretch across the country and give good and bad Valentine's Day gifts to one another. And also learn the skills, principles, and precepts necessary to be not a 1X, 10X, 11X, but a 100X.
100X engineer.
100. A little late on the delivery there. 100X engineer.
It's the latency. That's why.
I am your co-host, Drew's Valentine, a.k.a. Carter Hesterman.
And I am Carter's Valentine, Drew Johnson.
No, you're not. You're just Drew.
Oh, that's right.
I committed, but I appreciate it. I think that was a good intro. I'm happy with that one. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. It's a special day today. Not just Valentine's Day, but it is also the eve of Drew and I's 2-year anniversary of Drew saying.
You want to clarify? You want to clarify what you mean?
When I popped the question to see if he wanted to be employed for me or not.
Yes, my hire date. Let's clarify.
2 years.
Jupiter 1, 2 years ago.
Yeah, our anniversary. So I didn't get you anything for that either. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But you do anything cool in the past week? Past 2 weeks since we met last?
Nothing too exciting. We had a stray dog come up to the house over the weekend, and
cool story.
Like animal lovers, we just let it inside. It turns out it was the neighbor's dog, and we thought it was lost, and so we just took care of this random person's dog for a weekend until we found its owner. So that was fun.
Okay, that's actually a good story. That's a good one. Did you start with it's ours now, buying stuff for it? And
yep, we had dog food, we had a leash. We were just anticipating having it. So I don't want to go off onto a huge tangent, but the animal shelters were closed, so we didn't have anywhere to take him. So we were just posting on Facebook, who lost their dog? And so he was kind of lost, but he was also a block from where he was supposed to be. So yeah, Henry posted in chat. I think that's called kidnapping. Probably dog napping, but
yeah, frequent occurrence in America actually, and other parts of the world. I hear. Keep your dogs close, everyone, and keep them safe.
What about you? What's up with Carter?
I was out in the office last week talking about quarterly roadmap planning, very director level stuff. It was not hair flip worthy actually, and no, that was good. We had cats that lived in our backyard, and I bought a bunch of stuff for them. It was they will be our friends, and I'll befriend them. They'd hiss at me and lose their minds anytime I'd come near them. I'm trying to feed them pepperoni and stuff, and they're just freaking out at me. And then they were gone 3 days later. But at that point, I'd already bought toys, food, treats.
Yeah, I remember that.
I got all this stuff. Might as well get some cats now. So that's how I ended up with my 2 cats. One of which made an appearance 6 months ago.
Yep. Co-host.
Yeah, co-host, mini co-host, Junior. That's her new name now. Anyways, you want to intro our guest?
Yeah, we've got a really cool person joining us today. I really don't have much to say about him. I think he's going to do a great job introing himself. But let's welcome Devin.
Round of applause for Devin Luttrell. Oh, what are we looking at here?
Hey, what's up, guys?
It's
Good to
Devin.
see you.
Looking good, man.
Oh my gosh.
Devin, where'd you go?
Yeah, sorry. I was hidden behind my good old elf. He sits on my desk and wishes me good luck.
That was good. That was good. Please tell us. You have to tell us about the elf now, and then intro.
Yeah, it is officially a Finnish elf, and it is a little gnome-like creature that they all have all these types of little things for. This one is an adventurer, but there is ones that are like bride and groom, all types of interesting ones that you can get. But
That's so
was
fun.
given to me as a gift. Yeah.
Today I learned. Yeah, I agree with Ashley Lee here. That was a fantastic entrance. So very cool. You might give John a run with Sergeant Snuggles, Agent
Mr. Whiskers, Agent Whiskers.
Agent Whiskers, episode 19, 100x Engineering. John Chavez. Chat GPT is going to take my job episode. Devin, tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah. So I am a product manager here at Jupiter One, and I focus on the application team. So I work directly with you, Drew, and directly with you, Mr. Drews Valentine. But yeah, we work on a lot of things, some exciting projects. I originally came from Carbon Black and VMware. So I've been here at Jupiter One for about 5 months, and really started kind of getting into data visualization here at Jupiter One. So trying to meet those asset management use cases that we have with J1.
Very cool. If you're a prospective employee looking to work at Jupiter One, your odds of working with Devin are, well, if you're interviewing for our
pretty high.
50%.
Don't let that deter you. There are other people you can work with.
There's other folks. That's okay.
Look at how awesome Devin is. Andrew, I guess. But a few things I learned about Devin recently. Devin holds the world record at his high school for
the high school world record. Yeah.
Javelin.
For stick, I think it's called formally stick tossing.
Pointy stick tossing.
How far can you toss a stick?
Yeah, I can toss a stick about 193 feet.
I think that's far.
It's good. It's a good amount of feet. Yeah, good amount of feet.
That's pretty far. That's further than I can throw a stick. I'll tell you that. How far can you throw a stick?
What?
How far can you throw a javelin?
Don't put me on the spot like that, Carter. I have no idea.
Make it up.
I did at least 4.5 feet is what I'm probably banking on.
Cool. All right. So I would be able to beat you at that one in addition to the game we're playing today. So good. Because I can at least do it 5.
Whatever you want to tell yourself, sure.
Yeah, I need it. It's Valentine's Day. Be sweet to me. I'll be not sweet to you. I'm sorry. Moving on. Also played darts with Devin. I'd never played darts before, so he both showed me the ropes, and Charlie also showed me the ropes. Episode 3, 100x Engineering. But
nice.
Got these all memorized. Yeah, darts was cool. Devin also cleaned the house at darts, kind of like mini javelins, I guess, right? Like the skills translate.
Yeah, like tiny little jabs. You know, it's pretty easy. You just huck them the same way you huck a jab, and you know,
you huck a jab. Is that the technical term?
Yeah, you huck it. Yeah, technically, you run up to a line and you throw a stick. Is really the technical terms. But you know,
and you're good at it.
Devil's in the details.
You were good at pool, also. Like I was fortunate enough to be on his team for pool. Here's all the things that Devin's good at. One of them is also product management. We'll crack into that in a second. I also want to. I have like 5 other things I want to be on. Like, look how cool Devin is. Like, he climbs, he goes lobster hunting. He didn't touch a thing called an electric torpedo, but he almost did. Or he didn't almost, but it's a fish.
You gotta watch out for them. You gotta watch out for them.
I'm realizing there's more here that we should get into on another episode than I want to. But I'm going to introduce the game really quick before we tear into what we should use to value engineers, which we all know the answer is story points. The game we are going to play today is 100 player Pong. So well, feel free to join us. There are not 100 players on here. There's about like 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wow, that was a really close estimate for just like eyeballing it. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that. So yeah, Tyler, if we could get the link dropped in our social channels or on the restream thing, that would be awesome. We're about to start a new game. I'm green over here on the side. Feel free to join us, but pretty casual. If you don't know how to play Pong, then you're watching the wrong stream. 100x engineers know how to play Pong. Roll credits. I'm waiting for Tyler to actually roll the credits one of these times and do that, but don't do it now at this point, Tyler, please. Thank you. Okay. So kicking off with the actual topics of discussion, though. So there's a lot of interesting things that we can chat about. Why have a product manager on 100x engineering at all, right? The answer is very clearly like product management is the PM is an integral part of a team if you're working at a team that does PM, right? Does PM correctly. But before we get into that, Devin, did you used to be an engineer? Maybe that's why we're talking.
I did not used to be an engineer. No,
Okay.
I used to be in sales and customer success. That was my prior life before coming here.
Okay, so you're like way too good of a PM to have actually been an engineer at one point, so that like eases my soul. I was gonna have to do like some serious like soul searching to figure out what was going on there. What led for you like getting from kind of like a more customer facing? I guess you're still a customer facing role. What caused the shift to go into product instead of sales and CS?
I think when you are so customer facing, you see so many problems and so many things and issues that customers run into, and being kind of that liaison from the business to the customer. And a lot of the times you prescribe so many of these things back and forth that you get so familiar with, what it means to define a requirement for a product and all these types of, nuanced pieces of, building product for a customer. And I think part of that is like, what do I want to solve for my customers? And I want to be a part of that solution. So essentially, basically what it was, I had been a part of so much of that conversation from a requirements gathering standpoint that I wanted to just be a part of the actual solution. So defining some of those feature requirements, those feature sets to build out was really kind of the defining principle of like what I wanted to be a part of. I want to build the solution for the customer rather than just relay the information.
It sounds like a noble cause to me. I think that's pretty cool. I want to call out, I don't know if anybody saw it. Devin, if I started cracking up while you're talking, it's not because of anything you were saying. It's because Drew and I were up at the top and the ball started reaching like, it reached like Mach 12. It was just between our battles. I think it
funny.
glitched it, reset it. So I hadn't seen that before, but that was magic. Happy Valentine's Day. So I guess like how would you define what like a product manager does? You've already talked about that a little bit, but like I've worked at places where like product managers were just like people who kind of sat there and asked me what I was working on and then told people what I was working on.
Yeah, that's what Devin does.
Is that what Devin does?
I'm just kidding.
No, product management is done so differently in so many different companies. I think it is one of those roles that it plays many different cards. But I do think that product management in the most traditional sense is an individual who works directly alongside the business to define the strategies for a customer. So like they're the ones that are defining, hey, this is what the team should be focused on to build. But they also are the people that are defining what it means to measure that build. So a lot of the times, what we build on or what we're building for is based on conversations that have happened with customers and things that have been, relayed to us by sales or customer success. But we do have, the need for like somebody to actually measure that information, give us metrics of success, and try to get to a place where we feel confident in our builds. And a lot of the times that's the product manager who's defining kind of that roadmap of both measuring success and also just the pieces of defining what we build. And I did see that, Chum. I am playing. I am absolutely playing. I'm actually winning. I'm on the team that's got 7. I'm here green.
Carter and I have scored on ourselves like 3 times.
Yeah. But you do see like there's all types of roles. You'll hear, product owner, technical product manager, just regular product manager. There's kind of different defined roles based on the type of company that you're kind of working on. My experience kind of comes from the VMware standard, and the VMware standard is very much somebody who drives the roadmap with the stakeholders, but also as the person validating the feature requirements with customers. So not somebody that's reaching out to Drew to ask what he's working on today versus what he's working on tomorrow, but helping Drew define what he works in the next 3 to 6 months. So.
Yeah. So on that point, I was going to ask, like, so how closely should the PM be to the engineering teams, in your opinion?
I think it depends on the structure of the group. A lot of the times, I would say the best teams are the ones that have a close relationship with their PM so that they can define what our technical requirements are or tech debt that's needed to be resolved in order to build the right feature for the customer. I think if there is a strong disconnect, you end up building siloed features, which tends to lead to more tech debt. So I do think there needs to be a strong kind of relationship, maybe not with everybody, but there does have to be a strong relationship with at least 1 or 2 lead engineers on the teams, to make sure that you do have a kind of a solid foundation of what can be done. Also, what is the smart build versus what is the right build. I think there's a good way to try to think through that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Trying to be close, but not too close to where you're kind of missing the bigger picture.
Yeah, like I should never be involved with, your repos and looking through like exactly what your builds are, getting into, like I shouldn't be into that too much. And the same thing goes for when we work with design as well, right? Like we're a partner from through and through. And I think what it means to be a partner is a little different than, operating how maybe how your tech lead would, where they're looking at some of the code that's being created, or as well as like a lead designer. I think it's an important distinction to be thinking about.
Got a good question in chat. I'll put that up there.
Yeah, I think I probably just misspoke, to be honest. It's more of like the fast build versus the smart build, is really where I was going with that. But when you riff, you might say something different.
There's a lot of pressure. Like, are you directly accountable for what the engineering org outputs, or is that on the engineers, or is it on like the engineering managers? Like, how does that?
I think, yeah, I would say like the best product management leaders that I have worked with and been a part of, they take, product management as you are the CEO of the part of your product. So like you are responsible for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think it's important for you to take those wins, but you also need to take the losses. So when we do see things in there that could be fixed by just, faster built requirements, I think that's all part of what happens with product management. But I do think that product management should take a lot of the responsibility of what happens with the teams, because we are also defining what is the work that is being prioritized.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm hearing is it's your fault when my code doesn't work.
Not like that. More about if we find ourselves in a position where we have customers that aren't happy with the amount of bugs or that type of loading that we have built for the product. A lot of that is our teams or our product team saying, yeah, that's okay. Let's not focus on that for now. And I think that's an important place where we need to be accountable for what we can contribute to. And I think from a product standpoint, we have to be the voice in the room that says no or yes to you all when you guys say that something is done. So defining some of those like what is done metrics and acceptance criteria is exactly what product management should be there for. And that's where, like you got to be kind of the leader of your product or your space and take responsibility for the good and the bad.
On the engineering side of things, I've realized it's funny. Like we could have a whole podcast series on like the struggles of going from like a 7-person startup to like 150, 200 person company, and then beyond that. But one of the things that I've been interested in is like a year and a half ago, we didn't have a product organization here. Like our product org was like our CEO. And that's changed dramatically over time. And I've learned a couple of things like since then on like the engineering side of things, like as a manager who manages the engineers that are making the product that you manage. But I am also directly accountable for like what they put out. Like if the stuff that our team is working on is not valuable to the customer or it's not recognized as valuable throughout the business, then like we have like a blood pact or whatever it is. And like, I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy. I've been playing Harry Potter. So whatever that Harry Potter thing is where it's like you both die if like you break something. It's like we have one of those bonds where it's like we're going down together or we're rising together as like a shared victory of like our wagons are together in the success and failure of the product we own.
I think that's where the teams do the best work is when everyone is kind of on the same rowing in the same way, and people are taking accountability for stuff in both product aspect as well as engineer aspect. I think the partnership is how you build fast and strong, because then you guys can kind of answer the questions as you go through them and not have to make it an entirely different conversation every time that you go through something.
Yeah, I agree. It's also interesting, like the ability of a PM. We talk about force multipliers a lot in business, right? Like, be a force multiplier to the people you work with. That's what 100x engineer is, literally a force multiplier, right? I would say PMs are also a pretty like exponential multiplier of like a good PM can take a good engineering team and make them great and just like help them meet and align with like business objectives. And then like a bad PM can take a good engineering team and have them just be viewed as terrible. That's a lesson I learned like at my last job. Like, we had a PM on my team. It wasn't actually, I'll keep it vague. If you're watching this and I was with you, it wasn't you. But yeah, I've seen PMs on like teams at like my last company that like they did not really do much, and like those teams struggled. They were talented engineers, but like they had a really hard time because they lacked like the focus and everything. So what would you say like differentiates a good PM from a PM who might cause more problems than help with them?
I think like part of it is that accountability aspect. Like I do think that it's very easy to say, oh, that's not where my role fits. And I think that's where product management is such an interesting place. It plays so many different roles, and it does kind of operate you to be a little bit of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to certain items. But you have to be flexible, I think, in order for that to really work out. Like, you think about some of the ways that some of these teams are oriented. I think most dev teams are different, right? Like, our one team is a little different than the next team, and I think from that aspect, you've got to be flexible in order to scale if you have multiple teams.
Right.
I also think, like, when it comes to a good PM is probably looking at the big picture, and not just operating things based off of, hey, this is going to be an interesting build for us or an interesting feature that some other company does but we don't. I think a good PM is probably solving for an actual deliverable from an issue that a customer could be looking for, or a problem that they're trying to solve, that the PM is helping define what and why we would do something. So if you can't answer those questions, I think it's a bit difficult to be a strong PM about the features that you build, because you have to be able to answer those questions back to the business team, as well as to the engineers too that are interested in that, on like why we're building something. I think that's an important structure that is missed sometimes.
Sorry, I'm distracted by Drew refreshing to get an orange panel. I can hear the click from over here. Like, Drew's the front man. I think the accountability thing is like huge, and that's like an interesting. I'm reading a book, Jocko Willemick and Leif Babin, called Extreme Ownership, and that's like one of the principles of it. Of like your sphere of influence. It's if you look at like, this is what I own, and like I'm only going to like take care of this, like you're going to fail, because what you own is influenced by everything around it. If your neighbor has weeds, those weeds are going to end up in your garden as well. I just made that metaphor up, but I kind of like it. And so like it's important to have like peripheral vision, and also like working with others and collaborating. And that's like something that gets more and more important, like the higher up like in an organization's management structure you go, right? I think PMs operate at like this higher level that you have the customers, you have sales, you've got design, everybody, literally like everybody has like a stake in like what you do and don't decide to do, right?
I also think there's a big part of it, which is, you kind of just have to be someone that does, right? Like, you got to be a doer. I think, like, if you're someone who's you find yourself in analysis paralysis, if you are someone who's just like overthinking every decision, I think it's important to have things that are thought through. But at some point, it's the whole idea of an MVP, right? We need to validate prototypes and make sure that we have anecdotal evidence that we can really feel strongly about before we are, delivering something. But we also are willing to take the step to deliver something out to a customer to find out, because we can't just operate inside our silos, and we're not the experts in our, in every space possible, right? So we need to figure out what our customers will buy into, and we won't know that if, we don't take action.
Sorry, I just faked Drew out, even though he's on my team.
The ball keeps going through my paddle, and it's upsetting.
No, it happens to me as well, just like that. Drew, what's your opinion on story points? Do you think those are? I think they're the most valuable measure of an engineer's success.
Yeah, I was waiting for
I
it to
titled
get
the
to
episode. I titled the
the
episode.
title of the show. Yeah,
Anyway.
they're obviously the most important thing. Like, if you're not, whoever gets the most story points is the best engineer. That's
100%.
correct, right? Right, Devin?
We award story points for high performers.
Yeah, it's 100% accurate all the time. 60% of the time, every time it works.
We had a project manager, like a Scrum Agile coach. He was great, but like it was like 2.5 years ago, right after we just spun out from Lifeovic, and he kept drilling into us like story points are not a competition, and I was like, yes, of course I know that, but being the little, can I say shit? Yeah, but being the little shit that I am. I was like, okay, cool. So like as the team lead, I started awarding like, okay, you get 5 story points for that one, just like making it up, right? But
yeah, Carter story points were a subset of awards you could win, and so we started collecting Carter story points.
Yeah, you don't do that anymore. It's probably for the best to reduce confusion and everything. Okay, on the topic, I guess like playing devil's advocate, can story points be an effective measure of engineering productivity? To be clear to everybody, this is tongue in cheek. I don't actually think story points are the best measurement of somebody's value. Just I shouldn't have to say that, but I've been surprised before.
I think it's easy. It's easy for people to take a metric, right? So it's like a number. I think it's a number that can be used as a crutch. Like you might not notice how much work somebody is really doing for the product or for the organization if you're just measuring by story points, because you might have a lot of story points being built, but there could be 21 stories that are 1-point stories that aren't necessarily making an impact to the overall business. And there's such an easy way to think about it. And like from a 10,000 foot view, if you can just put a number on somebody, it's a much easier sell. So that's, I think, why they get so inflated as like the main purpose or the main thing that an engineer is measured by.
Like get focused on like the velocity. It's the numerical value, the quantitative value of everything an engineering team did over 2 weeks, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to spur out from the fact that it's hard to have quantitative measures for this kind of thing, right? I feel like companies struggle to get useful metrics, and so anything you have, you hold on to as truth.
Exactly.
Which is tough because like that assumes that all teams are going to be measuring them similarly. Oh gosh, that was a fast one. They're going to be estimating them.
Yeah, that one was so fast.
And like to a degree, I guess like you can, but like I know some teams, like some of our teams estimate like what a 5 is very different for like your team than one of the other teams' perspective.
So subjective, yeah.
But you look at those, so I guess like thinking from like the manager perspective, like I do look at like velocity and like the story point. I think it's a good metric, but I think story points are good for if somebody has low story points, that's not an indicator they're a bad engineer. If they have low story points like consistently, that also doesn't indicate they're a bad engineer, but it might be room for like having a discussion on like why are these this way? It can be either they're not tracking their work, they're working on untracked work, which like that's the case, they should probably track it. Or something else, or maybe they are just like not doing anything. They're playing Minecraft or 100-player Palm and watching 100x engineering workday.
Yeah, I think it's one piece. It's one piece to a big pie. That might make sense if you knew the context of somebody, and they're also not making or completing a lot of story points, but they've also been not building the right stuff or whatever, not focusing on the right things, or not delivering quality code at the time. I think then you'd see that it would make sense for it to align, but most of the time it's just a one piece.
Ooh, we got a solid question from Ashley here. So how do you align on the assignment of the number of story points?
I mean, this is what Jim had brought to us when he first came, was aligning on it being days, right? So 1, 3, and 5, talking through that as, that's 1 is anything less than 1 day, nothing more. 3 is anything less than 3 days, but more than 1. And then
Jim
5
is the head of engineering now, formerly Phil. But I have to show that picture once an episode, I think.
It was so fast.
Yeah. It's hard because like I've heard like Agile coach said story points should not equal time, which that's an abstract concept that I can't ever really get my head wrapped around. I mean, Drew, have you been able to do that?
I've never heard it like they shouldn't. I mean, they shouldn't directly correlate to time, but they should be related, I think. And it should be more, it's like time and complexity combined, which is super abstract and not really helpful. But it's not like, I think the point is it shouldn't be directly tied to a specific amount of time, or then you're just talking about time to completion. And I think they should be more than that.
Takes you a week. You have another 3-pointer that takes you a day. Should those both be called 3-pointers?
Well, these are estimations, right? So there's so many unknowns when we're planning, and we know this.
Yeah.
So maybe it's an attempt to solve for that, which is not perfect.
Yeah. And I guess like I do think like a team's ability to estimate story points and like have a good burn down. I think having a good burn down comes from good estimation. Burn down also another valuable metric for determining who your best engineers are and your best teams are. But I think a good burn down and like good like completion on story point commit is like not necessarily like that the team is like more talented, but that they're more maybe mature, or they're like more context on what they will be doing, or it's indicating like, you know, they have high confidence on what they're working on, high context. Whereas if like you're missing things, that could be an indicator of, okay, maybe the state, maybe it's Devin's fault. Maybe the ticket's coming in not well scoped. Maybe it's the engineer's fault of like they have not given the time necessary to like really think critically, or maybe they just like haven't had enough time to like ramp up into the system they're working in and they don't have context on it.
So you're saying like the predictability factor of, you know, how points are used is more important than necessarily like the standardization across teams.
Yeah. I think like your ability to like correctly execute on what you intended to do. And I think what you intend to do is reflected in like the points you assign to the tickets, right? Like this is what we're going to do and this is how long we think it'll be. The closer, if you get closer to that, that indicates that you have better information that you're working with.
Yeah, that's so tough though, because like, what if my team is, you know, we're burning down every sprint and we're completing all of our points we plan, and we just happen to plan a little bit lower than other teams. It's like another team's 5 is like our 3, if you will, and we get less points, but we're still doing our jobs, and then we lose the game.
Actually, cost negotiation then, since there doesn't seem to be a hard and fast rule. Devin, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are like, I mean, there's bits of it where, you know, part of it is actually on the product manager, right? Like we need to be able to give you guys a full scope of something, or else everyone's just going to put 5s on a ticket because, hey, it's as long as it can be because
Unknown complexity.
I don't know where this ends, right? So I do think like the better scoping that we can do together, like product management and team lead, I think that you end up getting probably a bit more control over predictability, which is the whole point of story points, right? I think like velocity is just like one way to say, hey, you've closed a bunch of stories, but I think it's not necessarily meaning like you've delivered, you know, feature sets to a customer. And I think like that's where we can talk about epics delivered, and we can talk about things like that, which would be scoped by a product manager and would need to be like vetted in that sense. But I don't think the negotiation thing, I don't think it actually is. I think like when you start through it, you're negotiating as you go through planning, to try to figure out, okay, what are we going to call done? And that's how we like kind of keep things reined in, because I can think that there's, especially something like a spike, like we need to make sure that there's an end goal. So if we have a spike that's a 5-pointer, it's probably just because we haven't, you know, really defined what we want the end to be. Because it could be, you know, 5 days of understanding some process that hasn't been done before, and that's a very normal thing. But I think we do have to negotiate the end goal, or like what is our, you know, definition of done. And that's where the negotiation happens. But I don't think like towards the end, maybe of the sprint, where you're talking about maybe open things, did we complete what you were expecting us to do? I think that's maybe where another negotiation part comes in. But I really don't. I think like at the very beginning, you're negotiating when you're sprint planning, but it's, you know, shortly after you start the sprint, I don't think you start negotiating it anymore.
Yeah. And I think teams align over time on what it means to have a 3 and a 5. Like teams and like product managers and everything. Also, shout out to Diggs BTW7. our second viewer from Twitch. So round of applause for 100x Engineering. We're broadening our reach. Diggs, thank you for being here, man, or person. We really appreciate you. Good to have you.
Hey, what's up, G?
What's up, G? Feel free to join us in 100 player Pong. We'll happily have you. We got about 5 minutes left. Man, that went by fast. Side. So we want to talk about Jira. I don't really want to talk about Jira. Let's not talk about Jira. Which engineers care about the roadmap?
I think this is a good one to end it off on. I would say, like, in my opinion, I guess this is a question and a conversation that I know Drews Valentine and I have had lots of conversations about. It is my expectation that, there's going to always be about 50% of a split where some people really do care about the roadmap and they, on the engineering teams, they care about what we deliver for our customers. Some folks want to just build something that's very interesting, new, and exciting to develop. I think as a product manager, it's like irresponsible to believe that is how every single engineer is going to want to know exactly what we're doing on the roadmap, because I think you're kind of just going to set yourself up for failure to believe that. I think when it comes to what makes a really great collaboration between an engineer and a team lead is, I think a team lead wants to know about the roadmap and wants to be plugged into the roadmap. And I also think that's how you level up, because when you have the context of what we're working on or what we're working towards, I ultimately think you might build something that's maybe a little bit more effective. And that's a little bit more of a better story tell for, hey, I delivered that feature and it was, important because of X and Y reason. But it is like in no way, shape, or form part of an expectation of mine that all engineers would be interested in the roadmap.
Right. I agree with that. I think you mentioned something about like team leads and their involvement with it. I think being aware of roadmap and like kind of the objectives of the business becomes more important as you step further up like the engineering ladder, right? Like staff and principal level engineers, team leads, they're able to operate more autonomously if they understand the goals and direction of like the company. They're given some parameters, but if they don't understand that, then they're going to have to be micromanaged a lot more. But if you have team leads, they're kind of there to help direct, and like product managers are help to kind of provide the micro for each of the teams. Drew, do you care about roadmap? You have to say yes, but you don't have to say yes.
I mean, yeah, I know I have to say yes, but I actually do. I think it's been something that's always been interesting to me, is like where the whole product and the organization is going as a whole. And it's to Devin's point, I think it has been beneficial for me personally. We have a question here to ask the audience. Would be curious if there are engineers in the audience and how they feel about the roadmap. I think Devin's right. I think some people really do just want to build cool things, and that is totally fine. But it's good to have some people who like to keep track of the things you're building and what they're doing.
We got a comment from Chum. Thank you for asking the question in the audience. Yeah. If anybody has thoughts on do you care about the roadmap? Do you not care about the roadmap? Please drop them here. True collaboration among engineering, product, and design is the sign of a healthy company and creates a unified goal for all involved. I agree.
Well said.
Ad nauseum with a couple of the engineers today who want to further that objective. So thank you, Chum. Let's see. 2 minutes left. I fall in the category of as an engineering manager, as a director, you sure as hell believe I care about the roadmap. Very much.
Yeah, you have to.
that is my job. So I'm highly invested in that. Previously, as like just like an engineer on the teams until I started like stepping into like leadership, I was kind of happy to just kind of I was excited to be told what to do.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises me. I would tack you as someone who was like, wanted to know what you were building and like where it was going. But maybe that's just because I know Director Carter.
But I also, it's like a little bit of like, I trust my teammates to like solve that for me. Tell me the problem you want solved and I'll take care of it. I think it's rooted in like my contractor background of like, I do freelance for people on the side, right? And like, I wouldn't come in, they would tell me their problems and then I would, provide them with solutions to their problems. I would not be defining the problems for them though.
Gotcha.
So I'm, if the
that's the product manager's role though, like the product manager should be defining the problems that we're looking to solve, I think. But if you're someone like yourself, Carter, like when we talk about those problems, we can work through a solution together if you know what the roadmap is or like what that problem is, because there's context there that a product manager won't have. And when we get into some of the technical details, there's some things where, I'm thinking about one way that we can fix this problem, and there might be something that's quite simple. We just haven't thought about it because it's more of a technical reason why we haven't done it yet. But now we can. And I think like that's where like having a team lead or like yourself or somebody who can focus on it with a product manager does help for a more collaborative roadmap, which ultimately is going to be more predictable, because otherwise it's siloed. And I think that's where problems come.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Back to Jump's point. So we got about 60 seconds left until we got to kick you off and run a commercial break for our network. The sponsor. No. In closing, this has been great, by the way, Devin. I've really enjoyed this. In closing, two things. You can pick one or both. Either A, say something profound, or B, as a 100X engineer, how should I engage with product?
I'll answer that question. I would say, like, it has a 100X engineer, if you're trying to level up your game, I think there's a way to communicate with product, which is just, let's talk through whatever it is that you're having issues with so that we can fundamentally create a solution that is best for both. I think like collaboration between groups on it is exactly what needs to happen. And I'm always going to be thinking about what's next, or what's the next operational thing that we need to cover for, what's our strategy when we're talking about our overall use case coverage. But I think when an engineer is talking to product manager, just always keep that in mind, right? Like we're going to be thinking about the big picture, how we can represent this back to the business, what's our metrics of success for it. And I think that's where you're going to want to keep that in mind for the conversation, because if it's just something that's very simple or is not involved with that overall goal, it's likely that the product manager is going to say, well, let's focus on something different. So framing something in a way where, it makes sense, right? For someone who's a little bit more abstract from the tech to know why it would matter to them, to project that as a strategic goal for, the product or the company or the group. Like we do this a lot. And I know Drew and I have done this a lot where it's, we're talking about, hey, that's interesting that we need to solve for that tech debt, but why are we doing that? And I think that's like, when we get that answered, we are building a better product, because it's normally built in good faith, why there is a reason why we would resolve some tech debt or resolve something that hasn't been resolved yet. But it needs to be like, for a product manager, you just need a little bit more data in order to say yes. I think it's a conversation.
I think that accountability definitely drives engineers to be better as well, of like thinking, okay, this is important to me, but is it actually important to the company? Like, yes, this kitchen is dirty, but we're just making a PB&J in here. Like, do we need to burn it to the ground?
Exactly.
Like, sometimes yes, sometimes no as well. So words of wisdom from Devin Luttrell. Round of applause. Let's all thank Devin. Thank you very much, Devin. This has been excellent chatting with you. Round of applause of one person.
Say goodbye to my elf, man.
Say goodbye to the elf. Devin, you've been great. It's been great chatting with you. Thank you for walloping us in 100-player Pong. We will catch you next time. See you later. I've been doing this thing a lot lately. I don't know if it's cool or not. Is it cool?
I feel like it's pretty cool. I thought it was cool. I was a little jealous, but I didn't want to try it. Or I was really like, that's the Boy Scout salute. I feel like that's my default.
Yeah, do a little like the vertical one. It's better if you have a hat too, I think, because then you can do it like the brim.
Go off the brim. Yeah, that's real cool, actually.
Yeah,
I think we're definitely qualified to talk about what's cool. That's
our
thing.
We got
right?
comments for each other. I got goldfish right here.
We're like the coolest people we know.
Oh yeah. Speaking of cool, I decided to not wear the hat forwards this time. New hat. Round of applause. Because wearing it forwards with this shirt, I felt like it was, gosh, I cannot. The mirrored image is really killing me today. Anyways, okay, there we go. Yeah, I was like, I look a little bit too much like a trucker if it's being worn forward, which is fine. No offense to truckers, they're great. Just
100X truckers.
It's not
100X trucking.
I'm not cool enough to give off the trucker vibe. There we go.
Gotcha.
Anyways, I won't ask you the question because I know the answer to the question. But the question is, when is our next episode? It is February 28th. I actually forgot it, and then I had to check really quick.
2 weeks.
So join us February 28th for our 1-year anniversary.
That's wild.
Engineering. We've 22 episodes in a year. That's not bad. That's only missing like 3. I'm happy with that. So it's been a glorious year. So join us for a 1-year anniversary. How would you rate the jankiness of the game we played? Feel free to drop your comments in the comment box. But,
The
yeah.
comment box. Some people were playing.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun. I really enjoyed when the ball was going so fast it could like render once before it went out of bounds.
Yeah, like
One-
the velocity was so far that like it didn't detect the collision because it went through the
Yeah.
paddle.
Yeah, that was the only annoying part is it would just go straight through your paddle.
Yeah, it was lag, man. The latency. It's eating up too much of my RAM. That's related. Yeah, I'd rate this like endearingly janky.
Yeah, I dig that.
Not as janky as like the reverse Tetris. Like that one was just like kind of flat out janky, or like Rento, but it's like it is similar. They'd be like at the same party, but it's like the cool one at the party of like janky.
I like that. The cool janky game at the party.
Yeah. So oddpvp.github.io/unblockedgame/play/100player pong. There you go.
Sponsored.
Yeah, sponsored. .com. We have something else to announce.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I actually don't remember what our email is. We have an email now, 100x Engineering email. Tyler, can you drop the 100x Engineering email, or Ashley in the chat for our viewers? If you have ideas about, if you want to be on the show, I would love to chat with you. Shoot us an email there. If you have an idea for a game you can play, it has to be free and it has to be online on the browser and something I can play and talk at the same time. Tyler just said, I have no clue what it is. Oh, God.
Panic.
Ashley, help us out.
Oh, there it is.
100x Engineering at jupiter1.com.
Yeah, shoot us a mail.
I should have guessed that. It's easy to remember. 100x Engineering at jupiter1.com. Slide into our DMs. If you want to be on the show, if you have a friend that you think might be on the show, an enemy that you want to sign up to talk to Drew and I, please let us know. Or send us our fan mail. Yeah. Anything else we should chat about before we sign off, Drew?
Yeah, that was fun.
Cool. Oh, wait. We have...
Might be the wrong email.
Oh, no. Think of the fans.
There's mail already going. It's too late.
Sorry. I think most of our viewership is on LinkedIn, so it's actually good that I'm showing these comments. Should I still be waiting?
Keep it like
100x Engineering at jupiter1.com, and if it's not that, we might change it to be that. Let's see. It's fine. Should be fine. Okay.
Fine.
Good. Okay, cool. With that, let's roll the credits.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Now,